Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 44 of the Hunger for the Hustle podcast, the podcast where we dive deep into entrepreneurship, business, and pull back that curtain that's often seen as glamorous in the world of entrepreneurship and business, because I can tell you it's not all that glamorous. And I wonder if my guest today will agree with that. Live from San Francisco, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Vaishali Nikhade. Now, Vaishali is a host also of her own podcast called the Uncanny Link podcast, which I can't wait to talk about. But more than that, Vaishali calls herself the business psychic, which is something I'm absolutely intrigued to learn more about. And after starting her own journey into psychic readings from other people and without getting great results from them, Vaishali decided to use her own power of intuition to help other businesses see through time into the future and project how their business is going to play out and really to improve them. Vaishali, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Wonderful. And I mean, let's dive into it. I must know more about the business psychic, what that involves, and how it came to be.
Sure. So that's a lot of questions.
Let's start with how did it begin?
Yeah, let's start with how it all began. So what happened is I have a background in engineering, and I was looking for help, and I started to call up psychics, and in the hope that they would be able to predict my future and tell me what I should be doing. Because that's really what I was asking them for, like perfectly innocent request, right?
Yeah, that seems like it.
Yeah, I mean, psychics can see the future. So I wanted to know what my future was. I wanted to know a little bit more on my career path. And I started to go to psychics. But it started with 1 and 2. And then, it went to like 5 and 10. And then it went to like 20, 30, 40.
Wow, you saw that many different people.
So, some people are, how do I say it, late learners. So some people take time to learn. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Think about what's going on. It takes a lot of time for some people to absorb what's going on, and I was one of them. And so I said, these guys are all clowns. They have no clue what they're talking about. I can figure this out myself. So because after 40 psychics or 50 psychics, you have to come to that conclusion. Otherwise, I would probably rack that up to 100. But I decided to learn it myself. And being somebody with a science background, the only way I thought I could learn it was by testing it. And if I couldn't prove that it worked for myself, then it wasn't true. So I said, psychics can see like 3 months, 3 years, 6 months into the future. So they can also see backward, like, 6 weeks, 6 days, 6 hours. So I got an idea that I will do testing in segments of like an hour. And I would go to the gym in the mornings, back in the time when people used to meet in person. This is all pre-COVID.
Back in 2019.
Yeah, back in the where, like physically people could like be in the same place. So that
I think I remember such a time. I think I do.
Yeah. So I said, I go to the gym for an hour and there is enough variation in that hour that, I should be able to predict what's going to happen. So I started like that. And on the first day, whatever I had predicted in the morning, it came true. So I said, well, that can be a fluke, just once, anything can happen once. Mm-hmm. So on the second day, same thing. I make a prediction. I come back, I look, the prediction plays out. I'm like, well, 1 or 2 days can definitely be a fluke.
True.
So third day, same thing. I make a prediction. I come back. I check. It still plays out.
And what kind of predictions were you making at this early stage?
So at this time, I was a novice. So I was just predicting like what would happen to me in the gym. That was like my
Right.
question, and it would give me a picture or data or information on whatever was the most significant thing that would happen to me in the gym in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So after 3 days, I started scratching my head. And I said, there is something behind this. It cannot be that each and every time it's kind of predicting and giving away everything that's going to happen, which means that, I can actually see through time.
Yeah,
And if I
exactly.
can do that, if I can do that, then I can also change things.
Yeah.
So
How did that make you feel at that time? Was it scary? Was it exciting?
it was exciting. It was fun because I was playing with it. So I didn't really care which way it went because I had nothing to lose.
Beginner's luck, right?
Yeah, I had
Just having
nothing to
fun with it.
lose. So the next day I said, today I'm going to prove this prediction incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was kind of getting on my nerves that, how could it be that, the readings or predictions were telling me what was going to happen. So the reading suggested, that was like my cardio day. So I would either run or go on the Stairmaster. And I said that if the reading says run, then I'll do the Stairmaster. And if the reading says Stairmaster, I'll do the run. So that I'm right and the reading is wrong. That's really what I was getting to.
Yeah, reverse engineering it.
Yeah. So when I looked at the reading, I almost fell off my chair. What it showed is that no matter what I did, I would be right, and so would the reading. Do you want to take a guess?
Yeah. Well, so whatever, even if you did the opposite thing, the prediction was still always right either way.
Both of us would be right. I would be right, and the reading would also be right.
That's powerful. And then how long did that carry on? You're at kind of day 4 or 5 now, or you're a week in?
No, so do you want to guess what happened?
Oh, sorry, I missed your question. Well, if the trend continued and everything that you kept guessing was correct, then I'm going to go with it. Just carried on playing out like that. Everything kept being absolutely spot on.
No, so what happened is it said a woman was at crossroads, meaning that no matter what I did, both of us would be right. So I said, okay, I get it now. And that's when there was like a switch in my brain that flipped and said that, okay, this is really true. And I need to study more. So I started to study more and kind of more like experimenting and playing and using it on myself to have some fun and tweak some things and look at what's going to happen, see if it's going to happen, those kind of things.
And the readings that you were doing, what was the method that you were reading with? Was it cards? Was it a book, or was you?
So yeah, it was. I was using cards to make the predictions,
Yeah.
and I was within like I want to say like 2-3 weeks. I was getting really really good at it, and then I started to read. I started to read people, or I signed up on a website which had like they have these sites with live readers and kind of a thing.
Yes, I've seen them. Yes.
Yeah, so I signed up on a site like that. It doesn't exist anymore. It was called eclient.com.
Oh, really? Surprised me is that it doesn't exist anymore.
So, but there's lots of other similar sites.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so what happened is like I would get this guy, he would come to me in the morning every day, and I would kind of practice on him and I would give him his readings, and then he would come the next day and the next day and the next day. And After about, I don't remember the time period, I want to say like maybe 4 weeks, 6 weeks or something. Then what happened is I got enough experience that I started to kind of diversify and look for more clients.
Right.
And once I started looking for clients, then it was just a matter of being able to read. And then I started reading, and then I started honing up my accuracy and doing lots of predictions. And I think I've read over 7,000, somewhere between 7 and 9,000 readings by now.
Wow, that's a lot of readings.
Yeah.
And then so at this point, when you started there, the gentleman was coming to you, you were kind of just honing the craft, practicing every day, and then you practiced at scale, which is, of course, the way to get better at everything. Practice doesn't make perfect, it makes improvement, and that's exactly what you're doing. But then at what point did you decide that you wanted to just do this in the business aspect and maybe not so much in the personal space?
So I still do the personal space, but
Okay.
the thing is, after you do something for a long, long time, you kind of want to do something else.
Yes.
And it was very recently during COVID that I decided that, I'll kind of focus more on the business side, because I was unofficially doing the business readings anyway. All the people who were coming to me for personal readings would also ask me questions about their business and how to tweak things and change things in their business, how the predictions would play out. So I kind of said that, it's time to kind of move on and just focus more on businesses. So I focus more on businesses, but a lot of it has also to do with the business owner. And sometimes, there is also personal aspects involved. So all of it is there, but the focus is a little bit more on the business, or at least that's how the clients come to me in terms of getting help.
Yeah, and I think something you touched on there is very important, because the two do come together, don't they? The business owner's mindset, the way in which he operates, the way in which he conducts himself with others, manages situations, and either responds or reacts to situations and often problems. That's essentially what a lot of business is, solving problems. That does, of course, it plays out and floods out into the business and has an effect on it. And it's interesting because people go, oh, you should never mix business and pleasure. You should keep your personal life and your business life separate things, which of course is true. And it's easy to say, but it's not always that easy to do. I don't think, and I'm speaking from personal experience here, that, sometimes if you are having a bad day, it can affect the way that you respond or react to situations. Of course, if you're dealing with business, those situations are still going to happen within that same time frame and day. So, yeah, I think, it does, the psyche of a business owner really does have an effect on the business itself. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think they are intermingled. A business is just, the business owner is still the owner of the business. So even though you're looking at the business, it's directly related, or it has a direct correlation to the owner. So it's almost like they're kind of married to each other. And it just depend, think about it. If the owner has an accident, the business is kind of screwed. So, in a way, they are kind of intermingled. So, you look at the business and see what's going to happen. It's also related to the person. And then, if they have staff, then it's also related to something that's happening in the staff.
And what do you think really is the main mental faculty that you rely on to perform these readings? Is it perception? Is it intuition? Is it reason? Which kind of ones do you draw from?
I think at this point, it just comes to me automatically. I don't need to really think about it. It's like riding a bike or driving a car. You don't need to think about stepping on the brake or stepping on the accelerator or putting your turn signal on or turning on your lights. It becomes unconscious or subconscious kind of an act. So at this point, for me, things are very different. But when I started in the very beginning, I was very meticulously documenting each and everything. and then comparing, what I had predicted to how things played out. I still do that, in fact.
Yes.
I have like this big pile of notebooks. Now I started writing on the computer because that was just too much paper. paper.
Yeah, it's the right thing to
So
do. Yeah.
I do it on the computer, but I still do my own readings and my
Yeah.
own predictions and then compare it with how they played out. And that's how I hone my accuracy, because unless you compare what happened to what was predicted, you cannot hone the accuracy. So a
Yeah.
lot of my client testimonials are more like, she's very accurate, she's very accurate. That's because I've kind of put in a lot of work into it.
Yes, well, there's no substitute for hard work, is there? And I can see you're a person that studies, frankly, by the amount of books on the shelf behind you there. So, I can see that, that you study your craft, you hone your craft. And not only do you do that, but you record your results and you review them results, which I think is of course, it's an important part of any business. But, when you get into different things, and this really is quite a niche within what business is, businesses that are out there, but it doesn't mean that because it's a niche and a bit different from, the kind of standard business format, that you shouldn't record and review those results, because, as you know, that's the way that you improve, and there's always room for improvement. I believe that every day is a day to learn. That's one of the reasons why I love doing these podcasts, because I believe that everyone you meet has something to teach you. Sometimes it has a lot of value, sometimes it has no value at all. But that's just how it goes, isn't it? And it's important to keep that in mind and keep your mind open to be able to learn so you can improve. Have you had like many challenges and along the way whilst you've been reading people perhaps that didn't like the reading or offended by what you said or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. So I've had people who were in disbelief about what I said, because I am a little bit of a straight shooter. I don't really sugarcoat things. And in the beginning, it was a little bit hard for me, because I would just say things as is. I would just blurt them out. Because you have to understand my background. I came from a science or a physics background.
Mm-hmm.
And it's either 1 + 1 = 2 or it's not 2. So
Yeah, it's black and white, and that's I respect that wholly and completely. Like in Australia, they use the term a spade. They're calling a spade a spade.
yeah.
It's just, it is what it is. There's no sugarcoating it up. And I think, particularly in business, it's important to do that, and it can shortcut a lot of time wasting, a lot of lengthy meetings that essentially didn't need to happen. What's the purpose of the meeting? Do we need to have it? Can we not just do it in a phone call? This is what it is. This is how it is. Because otherwise, like, sugarcoating just leaves to, it's not honest and transparent to start with, which isn't a good way to conduct yourself in life or in business. So, yeah, it can lead to just disappointment, I suppose, and confusion in that. So, but yeah, you'd be straight with people and tell them how it is, and perhaps they wouldn't like what you had to say.
Well, yeah, so some of the people who were new to me, they would kind of get slightly offended. So since then, I've kind of learned to soften things a little bit.
Yeah.
But for the people who are regular clients of mine, they actually want it the way it is. They don't want any sugar coating. So I give it to them the way it is, and that's how they want it. Because, see, in the end, if you know something difficult is coming up or something bad is coming up, then you can always like tweak things.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can ask questions to tweak things. I have an episode on my podcast, and it's called Intelligent Questions Create. And the basis of the episode is that it's more important to be able to phrase the question in order to get the answer that you're looking for. Because in the beginning, when I started reading, I would spend a lot of time with my clients just framing the question. Otherwise, the reading would just show what you asked for, and that's really not what they wanted to know.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. So there's layers to it, isn't there? There's layers to it, and of course, it's not just about telling the person what they want to hear, because that's not what they've come for. There's no real value in that
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah, they don't need to pay me for that. They might as well, just hire somebody else for that. I'm not that person.
Yeah, or just talk to themselves in the mirror. They could probably find the answers for themselves. And then do you always do readings one-on-one? Is it possible to do readings from like a one-to-many environment? Is that something that people do? I don't know.
So I actually do one-to-many readings. And the way I do that is when I first started, I was completely clueless on how to go about it because it was essentially an accident. And I said that, if somebody comes, I'll just give them like a 5-minute reading. And like after that, they would sign up and pay to be a client. And after I did about 5 or 10 of those, I'm like, God, this is a waste of my time. I'm not just going to sit and do these 5-minute readings. So I started what is known as like a weekly forecast, where I give them a prediction of how the week will go. And that's on one of my other sites. I have more than one site. So what I do is I do like a one-to-many reading, and I give them a prediction of what will happen to them during the week. And then this way, it's just a way for them to verify of how things actually work.
Yeah, and verify that it's working for them, I suppose, as well. Because I mean, I'd imagine there's perhaps some people who start engaging with you and hire you for your services, but they maybe don't like what they hear. They maybe get a couple of readings in, and they're like, "Oh, I'm stepping away because it scares me," perhaps.
Well, I mean, there are some people who just come once or twice, and then there are lots of people who also come more consistently or on a more consistent basis, kind of a thing. So everyone is different, so I don't want to generalize.
Yes,
But
that's right.
yeah, so it depends on everyone's needs and what they want to take out of it and what they want to make out of it. So definitely a lot of the clients who work with me, they've said that, they have been able to make a lot more than what they've invested.
Yeah. And I think I'd like to kind of pull back on my next question just a little bit to how you started. And, it was kind of like a treasure trail, wasn't it, that led you to it? It was born, like many businesses are born, of trying to find a need that you couldn't find within yourself, or find something that you couldn't fulfill within yourself. And then just thinking, well, if I can't find someone else who's going to do it for me, I'll do it myself. I think a lot of businesses are born in that way, as yours was. But I'd be intrigued to know, if you started again tomorrow, would you perhaps do it differently, or are you just glad that it played out the way it did and you learn, inherently the way you learned because of that?
I think as far as the technical aspect is concerned, I don't really see a problem. But as far as the marketing aspect is concerned, I would definitely do that part differently.
Yeah, marketing's a whole different beast, isn't it? You can be great at what you do. You can sell a great product or service, but if you don't quite know how to show it to the right people, and coming back from that, knowing who the right people are, that's the first thing you've got to figure out. Who is your audience? And then how do I get in front of them? It's a completely different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I wonder, Vaishali, and I know we discussed this, like, is there any chance that you could do a reading with me?
Sure. What is it that you would like to know?
Well, I'm planning to expand my business in quite a big way, and I have a goal to do that by the middle of next year. And I'm wondering, it's expanding on a global scale, I'll say that. I'm just wondering, what is the answer I want? Will I achieve it in the time frame that I want to, is probably one of my initial question.
What is your goal? Can you share that or no?
Yeah, I can share it. Essentially, I want to expand to the USA and Canada and New Zealand with my business by the end of May next year.
And what is the business that you are looking to expand?
It's called Paddock Blade. It's a business I've had for several years, and I actually sell. It's a horse manure collector.
Horse manure collector. Very
Yes,
interesting.
I'll give a bit of a backstory on that because it does sound quite strange. Essentially, when people keep horses in the field, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and the horses eat, live, and go to the toilet in that field, and the people have to collect the manure up. And usually they do that with a shovel and a barrow, and it takes them many hours to walk around the field each week doing it. And just about by the time they're finished, they turn around and it's all dirty again. So it's a problem that it takes up, and it takes up a lot of effort as well, particularly in the heat or in the rain. You don't really want to be out there. People buy horses to ride them, right? Not to have to pick up their manure all the time. So the product I sell, they just tow it behind them in a field or a paddock, we call them here in Australia, and it just picks up the manure. They tow it with a car or a quad bike or something similar, an ATV, and it just picks up the manure for them, and it takes them 10 or 15 minutes instead of 1 or 2 hours.
Oh, wow. Amazing. How did you come across that?
Well, my father actually invented it in the UK, and he sells it there with great success. And then I moved to Australia, and within a couple of years, he said, "Why don't you give it a go there?" I gave it a go here, and I had great success with it here, to the point where recently I've actually been able to quit my job working for someone else and just pursue it full time.
Yeah, so I looked at the reading while you were talking, and the answer it shows is it depends on how you tap into the international market. And mainly what it showed me was like a horse and a rider on top of it. And that's kind of funny, right?
That's crazy.
And it's showing international. So it almost seems like you need to connect with international groups, or where there are international groups of horse riders or something.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on that is how you can kind of expand the business. So there is no yes or no answer. In this particular case, it depends on the action that you take.
I understand that, and that's it's a good answer, because I'm taking action and I'm engaging with people in the markets. I've already found a lot of people, so I guess it depends. It's like anything, isn't it? The amount of work I put into it is exactly what I'll get, the value I'll get back out of it.
Yeah, but are you engaging with horse rider groups? Are you engaging with those kind of people?
Yeah, yes, I am, but I could be doing more of it. Is the answer? Yeah.
That's what it's showing, to kind of get into groups where there is a lot more like horse riders or owners of the horses, and those kind of groups. It's also showing online, so it's almost like you need to look at those groups online.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for that. It's uncanny that it had a horse and a rider on it, because it couldn't have been more fitting.
I know, it's almost like it's very appropriate to the question.
Yes, highly appropriate. It could have been any animal, and it was a horse, of course, which relates closely to it. So, thank you for that. That was intriguing. I could probably ask you a million questions, but we've only got half an hour, 40 minutes. So, but I think, Vaishali, perhaps if you could, what are your? I always like to touch on this. What are your goals and aspirations for your business going forward? Into the future?
Yeah, so what I am looking to do is I am looking to work with some clients who are interested in expanding their businesses and would be able to leverage like a business psychic to work with them to be able to get to their goal. So like, let's say that you're making 5 grand a month and your goal is to be able to make 10 grand. So if you try to do it on a physical level, you would be shooting like 1, 2, 3, 4, like so many different targets, and seeing which one of them actually clicks, right? And if I look at it, for me, it's very easy. I just pick these 3 because I can look and say that these are the 3 that are going to work. And that way, it's a lot more efficient for you to be able to invest your resources and your time and just focus on those 3 to be able to get to your goal. So I was I was really hoping, I don't want to say hope. I'm looking forward to working with some business owners like that who are interested to work with me on a longer term basis so that they can see results and I can also use my skills, and it can be a little bit of a fun combination.
Yeah, I think I'd be interested speaking to you actually about that on camera afterwards. I mean, I'd be a good fit for that. I'm growing, and I think it'd be interesting, and I sure like having fun. I mean, that's part of the reason why I do these podcasts, because it's all about having fun, right? And keeping a sense of joy in everything you do.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's
I think it's important because that's a form of energy. And if you make everything very serious, it's very difficult for things to come in. But if you kind of make it more fun and make it a little bit lighter, like how I was doing with the 50 psychics, then it's easier to get a little bit forward momentum. Let's just say it like that.
yes, I completely agree with that. Now, if we could, we'll close up with this. If you could give 3 hot tips in any regard, really, within what you do, and perhaps a book recommendation to anyone that's watching.
Sure. So let me get away with the book recommendation first. So the book that came to my mind it's called The Slight Edge. I don't remember the author, but you can. It's on Amazon, I know. And I read this book like over 10 years ago, maybe more than 10 years. I don't remember how long, but I read this book long time back, and I think it's a great book. And what it suggests is that just by making very, very small tweaks and small changes daily, how you can amplify the results. So maybe I need to read the book again because I haven't read it in a long time. So, but it's a very lovely book. You'll definitely love it.
What was it
And
called again? Sorry.
I'm sorry?
What was it called? The book?
It's called The Slight Edge.
Slight Edge.
Yeah,
Okay, I
the
think I have
slight
heard of
edge.
that. Cool. Yeah.
And then, as far as recommendations are concerned, or 3 tips or something, I would like to give 3 tips. The first one is what I was saying earlier regarding creating questions or crafting questions. So, the more intelligent the questions are that you ask, the closer it is that you will be able to get to an answer, whether you are getting help from a psychic or you're trying to figure the answers out yourself. And that's like episode 17 of my podcast. It's called Intelligent Questions Create. So that would be like my first tip.
Okay.
My second tip is that how about we are all born with the psychic powers, and it's just a matter of us to be able to use them. And we have more than 5 senses. And the other senses are actually our psychic senses. And it turns out I talk about that on my podcast as well. And the episode is called Five Senses Are Not Enough. And my last tip is that the universe never opens a golden door with the word gold on it. It always looks like an ordinary thing. And then as you start opening that door and moving forward and forward, you will start seeing like a series of golden doors opening up. And I have a quiz related to that. It's called Creativity Quiz. And it shows you, or it's based on real life scenarios where real clients have come to me and asked for help. And it's almost like you are a client and you're kind of choosing which door to open. So if you can take that quiz, then you will know where you stand and what kind of doors you open if you're missing out on opportunities just because they look ordinary.
Yes, yeah, I've got a link for that, and I'll include it in the comments afterwards. So yeah, great hot tips there, and quite varying different ones. And before you go, yes, tell us a little bit more about your podcast, because it sounds quite different, the Uncanny Link podcast, and just in the slight information you give us there, I'd like to hear more about it.
Sure. So the Uncanny Link is a podcast which helps you with your decision making skills, and the theme of it is physics meets metaphysics. So I have a background in both physics and metaphysics, and I kind of combine it. And I show how the universe sends us signs and how we can capture them and use them to our advantage or ignore them and run into roadblocks.
Ain't that the truth?
But it's also very related to entrepreneurial or businessy kind of a person. But a normal person can get advantage from it as well, because a lot of people are selling on eBay and Etsy and all these kind of things. So there's very, very small tips and exercises in each one of the episodes. And if you listen to the episodes, there's like an exercise or a homework that you need to do. And if you do it, then you will get the slight edge.
Hey, I like the way you tied that in. Very good. And where is your podcast available? If, of course, people can just pop it in Google. It's very easy to find there. But what platform is it available to listen on?
You can listen to the podcast by going to theUncannyLink.com and click on podcast. Otherwise, it's on iTunes, it's on Google, it's on Apple, Spotify.
All the good places.
Yeah, all the major podcast players.
Great. And I've dropped a link for both Vaishali's website and her handle, which is the same. I like the way you've got the same handle across all platforms. That's smart. So it's the same across Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That makes things a lot easier. And of course, your link for LinkedIn. Vaishali, it's been intriguing and just an absolute pleasure to talk to you and learn more about what you do. Thank you for your time and energy today. I really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun, and I hope that the guests enjoy it and get a few takeaways.
Yes, I hope they did too. Thanks for watching, guys. I know my friend Aaron was watching. Aaron's actually a horse rider in the US, who I've been speaking with about what I'm doing. So yes, I am. Already action is being taken on the reading you said. Great. Thanks, Vaishali, and take care, guys. Catch you soon.
Bye.